first off, welcome everyone. It's a delight to be here. And what are we doing? Why are we here? And so I want to try and set an intention. And with that intention, something shifts, something moves. So we would go around the room, and we will, I hope, in the future be together in a room in person. And if we had a lot of time, we'd kind of go around the room and hear, 6 or 7 different intentions. And my guess is that everyone's intention would have something to do with their life. Right? I'm here to open up in this way, to shift in that way, to transform, right? To deal with an old issue, to create new possibility, or whatever that might be. And those are good intentions. And those are awesome and beautiful and gorgeous intentions. But I want to invite us to the possibility of a different intention. A deeper intention that includes all of that, includes whatever my personal intention might be, but to invite a deeper intention into the room, which is the reason we're together, this group of people, in this time, right, in this place, right, in this moment, right, that never was before. Right, this moment never existed before in history. Alfred North Whitehead talks about the creative advance of novelty, right, the radical newness of any moment. No moment's like any other moment. There's no extra moment. So in the infinity of eternity that resides in the disclosure of this moment, why are we here? So the intention I want to introduce is that we're here not only for ourselves, not only to open up to new possibility in my limited, separate self, but we're here to participate in the evolution of love. We're here to participate in the evolution of love. That we are revolutionaries, evolutionaries. We're here to open up new possibility. But we're here to create, right, a future of love, a future of eros, a future of sexuality. We're here to understand the relationship between sexuality, eros, and love in a way that hasn't yet been revealed. There's been glimmers of it. There's been pointing towards it. But we actually haven't accessed an embodied love, an embodied eros, an embodied sexuality that actually works. When I opened up the paper this morning and, I saw about 5 different articles on sexual abuse. Right? One article was about, a representative, the Speaker of the House, right, who is being sentenced for molesting a bunch of boys, right? Tragic story. But 2 other articles were about false complaints, right? Actually, false complaints by women of sexual abuse that weren't true. Another article, right, was about, another powerful, right? And it's like, we're confused. Then there was another article on divorces and the level of divorce. Another article on, the myth of monogamy, right? And it's like, we're confused. We don't know where we are, right? Who are we? What are we, right? What's the vision? And so what happens is in every generation, there are people who come together to envision future possibility before it's even fully available. It's what happened in 1215 when the Magna Carta was established. Democracy, 1215, British king, English king. And all of a sudden you have this group of noblemen envisioning this possibility of democracy. People were burnt at the stake for envisioning democracy. The idea that one person would vote and have a say, a voice in determining who would govern them was a violation of the essential ethic of what was possible. Right? 150 years ago, gay marriage in America? Are you for real? 50 years ago, gay marriage in America? Impossible. A complete impossibility. Any presidential candidate who would favor gay marriage would automatically lose. Wouldn't even get the beginning of a race going. So democracy didn't exist. Right? The possibility that one would, several hundred years ago, choose their spouse because they were in love with them was absurd. Complete absurdity. Didn't happen. Right? The introduction of romantic love, right, as the fundamental structure of society didn't happen with the troubadours. The troubadours was not about romantic love. The troubadours was about loving someone who was someone else's wife, who you idealized, right, as an object of desire and never had contact with. That's what the troubadours were about. Okay. But actually the idea we have of falling in love and choosing your partner based on that didn't exist. So consciousness evolves. Sexuality evolves. Eros evolves. And in every generation, there's a group of people who it's like their turn, right? And Christina is one of the people really who's at the forefront of this conversation, right? She's one of the people who's one of the pioneers in this conversation. She's one of the revolutionary evolutionaries in this conversation. She's one of the people with the deepest insight, deepest understanding, right, of what's possible in the future of love, what's possible in the future of Eros. And in our circle and in our lineage, she's holding an utterly central role, both in mind, heart, and embodiment, and in actually beginning to enact, right, future possibility. Now, if you think future possibility unfolds in big rooms with 2,000 people at large events, it doesn't. Never does. It's never how it happens. Right? I've spoken in many, many of those rooms and will continue to. Future possibility almost never unfolds there. There's too much happening, too much politics, too much economics, right? Too many ulterior agendas. Future revolutions are always enacted in small rooms with a group of people. That's always how they start. But who are actually courageous, who actually want their own sacred autobiographies, their own stories, right, to actually participate and contribute and give something and enact something which is not only for themselves, but for the larger possibility. And so I want to just invite us gently, tenderly, with quivering tenderness and radical audacity, right, to set the intention that our own lives, our own sexual lives, our own erotic lives, our own love lives, and each one of those words needs definition. And we would need to do a whole weekend, right, on what does Eros mean? What does Eros actually mean? What does love mean? What is sexuality? What's the relationship between those three? And maybe we'll get to talk about that a little bit tomorrow. But our intention right now, right, just sufficient to set an intention, right? Our intention is to participate in the evolution of love, to participate in the future, the evolution of the erotic, of Eros, right? To participate in, right, the evolution of sexuality. Now, I want to just go even deeper into this, right, to kind of just step into this one step deeper, because this is not an image. This is not a kind of sweet, kind of workshop, new age, lovely idea. That's infinitely boring to me and to all of us. Really? We're busy. Let's quit. Actually, this is a reality. The reality today, the single most important scientific reality in the last 40, 50 years is the realization that the universe is not a fact, the universe is a story. Everyone get that sentence? The universe isn't a fact, it's a story. That's the single most important scientific breakthrough. We call that evolution. But Albert Einstein didn't know that the cosmos was evolving. He didn't know. He knew the biosphere was evolving, right? We knew human beings were evolving. We didn't actually know the cosmos itself was evolving. There's actually 3 levels of evolution. There's the evolution of the physiosphere, the cosmos, which we only know post-Hubble telescope, right? In early 1960s, we're getting, right, really clear understanding of it as we receive the light from the Big Bang, right, post, Edwin Hubble's telescope. Right? We begin to know that the cosmos is evolving. We never knew that. Albert Einstein didn't know the cosmos was evolving. We know the biosphere, life, right, is evolving. And we know that actually the noosphere, or culture, ideas, are evolving. Consciousness is evolving. There are 3 Big Bangs, not one. One Big Bang, the emergence of reality, the cosmos. Then the cosmos itself evolves. We have an evolving cosmos. Then we have an evolving biosphere of life. Then we have cultural evolution. Consciousness itself evolves. That's the first great revolution. The second great revolution, and this is hard science, my friends. And this is the nature of reality itself. Right? To be sane is to know reality. To be insane is to be disconnected from reality. So in the nature of reality itself, what do we know? We know that consciousness evolves, life evolves, the cosmos evolves, and drum roll, big sentence. I need a drum roll in the room. Do we have a drum roll in the room? Drum roll. Got a little drum roll here. Where's my drum roll? Drum roll, and thank you. Right? We know that we are personally implicated in evolution. Big sentence. We're personally implicated in evolution. That each one of us is personally implicated in the evolutionary story. Meaning that the way I live my story, if I wake up, right, to the highest possibility of my unique self, my unique expression, if I actually get beyond the contraction of ego and begin to express the unique leading edge of evolution awakening to itself through me, I actually realize that evolution awakens to itself through me in person, then I become myself the leading edge of the evolutionary process. Right? And evolution is not out there. When we think of evolution, that's a huge mistake based on ignorance. Right? Science teaches us, right? Once we get these three levels, these three big bangs of evolution, evolution happens within us. Evolution is the interior nature of the cosmos. Reality is evolving. I am evolving. I'm part of the reality. So if I evolve at my leading edge, then I am myself the leading edge of evolution. Right? So if a group of people come together and they say, it's our turn, we're going to be the new holy band. We're going to be the new band of outrageous lovers. We're going to, in our small community, right, of outrageous love, right, of outrageous lovers, we're going to actually evolve love. Right? We are, as individuals, as a mini community, as an organism, we're going to participate in the evolution of love. Right? Then we are awakening to the reality that evolution itself is alive, awakening and moving in us. That's a completely different way to live. I begin to live in an evolutionary context. Right? I begin to feel the evolutionary impulse moving in me. I begin to realize that the personal face of the evolutionary impulse is my unique self. I begin to realize that the evolutionary eros that drives, and now we're going to come to sexuality, and then we're going to come to domination and submission. I begin to realize that the evolutionary eros, the allurement that moves quarks towards other quarks and protons towards neutrons and molecules to form complex molecules and complex molecules to then emerge as atoms and right, that whole process, right, that allurement, right, that move towards contact is the evolutionary eros. And that evolutionary eros, the eros that drives evolution, right, what Dante calls, right, the love that moves the sun and other stars, right, the evolutionary eros itself, that allurement, because all of reality is allurement. Think about it for a second. What is reality? Reality is allurement. Well, how do I know? Well, you ever heard of gravity? What's gravity? Gravity is allurement at the level of celestial bodies. You ever heard of electromagnetic attraction? That is to say the atomic universe, the subatomic universe. What is that? That's allurement. Electromagnetic attraction is allurement, right, at the level of atoms, right? The level of, right, gravity is love. Or gravity is love at the level of the physical. That's what it is. Love is the movement, the allurement, the attraction, right, that bodies have towards each other. Right? That's not a human expression. It's the nature of reality. Right? Reality is fuck. That's what reality is. Reality is the movement towards, right, the allurement towards, right, the drive to contact, right, the drawing towards, and all of reality is made up of a structure of unique allurements. Not every proton's allured to every neutron. Did you know that? You need kind of the right hot proton, right? The right neutron, right? You need the right attraction. You need to create stable relationship, right? Or, right, it all breaks apart. And that's not just true in our lives. That's a human anthropocentric, narcissistic, right, self-inflated, right, claiming of reality. Not true. It's the nature of reality. Reality is made up of a series of unique allurements. And what's my life? My life is the unique allurements of my life. And that which drives me sexually to make contact, right, isn't some fucked up early programming, right, that needs to be rewired, that therefore is expressed, right? I mean, there's early stuff that always needs to be engaged and dealt with for sure. But what drives me sexually, right, is the nature of reality. And I'm driven towards, right, I'm drawn towards contact, right? And that movement towards contact, right, to actually create more and more embrace, more and more union, right, that allurement towards contact happens at the level of celestial bodies. If for one instant, just 1 second, that sexual allurement at the level of celestial bodies stopped, reality breaks apart in 1 instant. But if electromagnetic attraction stops in 1 second, 1 millisecond, right, nanosecond, there is no more allurement, there's no more attraction, erotic attraction at the very substructure level of reality, reality disappears, right? So when I'm accessing, right, that allurement that lives in me, right, for the first time I can do it without shame. Because it's not some fucked up part of myself. It's not just natural, as Kinsey tried to tell us. No, it is the nature of reality itself, and it is the holy nature of reality. The erotic and the holy are one. And it's the movement away from alienation, away from disintegration, towards attraction, integration, mutuality, recognition, union, and embrace. And for the first time, we can articulate a vision of sexuality which is beyond shame. So stay with me for a second, okay? How do we understand the sexual? Okay, and we're gonna do in the next 15 minutes or so. We're doing about 10 hours and about 14 minutes. Okay, so here we go. Okay, how do we understand the sexual? We all okay there? Everybody okay? Since I can't hear you, give me some nods of the head. Okay, we're good? Some little waving there. Hello, hey, yeah, okay. We're good. Yay, yes. Right? How do we understand the sexual? So there's 4 basic sexual narratives. Okay, cheers. Yo, you guys don't have glasses? Got to raise your glasses. Cheers, cheers. Have pretend glasses. Don't worry. L'chaim. Cheers, cheers. Good morning, good morning. It's afternoon. You can have your first drink. I'm tea, of course. Okay. So how do we understand the sexual? Right. There's 4 basic sexual narratives: sex positive, sex negative, sex neutral, and sex sacred. Take a quick look at them. What's sex negative? Sex negative is kind of the classical Platonic, expresses itself in Christendom, parts of Judaism, lots of radical fundamentalist Islam, which has taken on the world today in very devastating ways. Right? It's based on the sex negative view. Radical violent fundamentalism is almost always connected with the sex negative view. Right? Sex is fundamentally negative. There's a repression of life force. Therefore, the life force has to emerge in distorted forms. You cannot understand Islamic fundamentalism in its shadow form, right, or Christian fundamentalism in its shadow form, right, or any fundamentalism in its shadow form, without understanding that at the core of it, there's an anti-life. There's an anti-life dimension that therefore needs to get re-expressed. It's expressed almost always in a violent form, right, which is violence against other instead of allurement towards other. You follow? That's sex negative. There's a sex negative narrative. We know about that narrative. And that narrative lives in our head. One way or the other, there's a voice in our head which is a sex negative voice. Then there's sex positive. What's sex positive? Sex is wonderful. It's a panacea. Good sex will make your life great. It solves all problems. It's lovely, beautiful, right? Affiliative, relational, beautiful. Sex positive. A little boring, but not bad, right? I mean, it's positive, right? It doesn't quite capture our experience of sexuality because sex is more than a good baseball game. It's more than a good meal. It's more than positive. Right? When sex is positive. Whenever I hear the word sex positive, it doesn't capture what sex is. Sex is more than sex is like, right? But positive is too bland of a word. You get what I mean by that? It's not quite positive, right? It's something else, right? But sex positive is a position, right? And third possibility, sex neutral. And Kinsey was really about that position in some real way. His dad was about sex negative, right? Who was a fundamentalist preacher. And Kinsey was about sex neutral, meaning it's just like anything else. What's the big deal? Right? I'll have a little dinner, have a little sex, right? Go to a movie, right? But just another thing we do. It's biological. What's everyone get so excited about? Sex is neutral. How many people in the room think sex is neutral? Pretty much nobody. Sex is not neutral. It's just not true, right? It's not true that, our relationship changes after we had coffee together. Well, maybe, okay? Our relationship changes after we had sex. Much more probable, right? It's not neutral. So neither sex negative nor sex positive, nor sex neutral actually capture our experience of sexuality. So along comes sex sacred. And sex sacred is usually something like, because sex creates life, right, it is sacred. Right? Some version of that position. You've all heard the position. Now, is that beautiful and lovely? Sure it is. Is there some truth to it? Of course there is. There's also some truth to sex negative, by the way. Right? Sex can also be negative. It can cause a lot of trouble. Right? Sex is also positive. Sex also has a dimension that's neutral. It's biological. Right? Sex is sacred. It creates life. But sex sacred doesn't actually capture our experience of sexuality. I'll give you a simple example. Let's just go around the room. How many people participated in sex in the last year? Show of hands. Okay. How many people were participating in sex in order to create a baby? Well, there we go. End of discussion. Right? That is to say, right? Sex sacred, right, is not our experience of sexuality. I mean, there are people, right, having sex to have babies, evidences that we exist, right? So clearly we're a result of, right, that experience. And that's beautiful, and that's gorgeous, and it's stunning. But it does not in any sense begin to exhaust our experience of sexuality. So if we exile sex sacred, right, to reproduction, right, to the creation of a baby, well, then we basically excluded virtually all of sexuality. You see the problem? Right? In other words, that you could have sex sacred as a narrative in a world pre the pill, right, in which sex basically was fundamentally involved in reproduction. Even then, sex sacred wouldn't exhaust it. You need a wider view of sex sacred to include relationship. But nonetheless, you could talk about sex sacred as your major pillar, right, when sex sacred meant the creation of a baby, when the creation of a baby was, right, intimately and intrinsically linked with sexuality. But now that we've split the creation of babies from sexuality in two ways. One is we can have sex, right, without having babies, and we're very close to being able to have babies without having sex, right? From in vitro, right, which is, in this enormous emergence, right, to test tube babies, right, and down, right? So in other words, we've actually split sex and babies on both sides, right? Do you get what's happening? So in other words, if we remain with an old, right, spiritual sex sacred narrative, right, which is sex creates babies, well, then we're actually out of touch with reality, which makes us insane, because sanity means to know reality. Well, so sex neutral doesn't quite cut it. Sex negative, not quite there. Sex positive, no. Sex sacred, no. Each of them is true, but partial. You get it? It's each one has truth. Each is a partial truth, and none of them actually exhaust or approximate our experience of sexuality. So let me, with your permission, try and introduce just in a moment or two, right, a new vision of sexuality, a kind of new kind of sexual narrative, and we'll try and hold it together, okay? So the sexual is the expression of the pulsating evolutionary eros that drives reality in every second. Evolutionary sexuality, right? Sex is sacred because it expresses, right, the sacred essential process of life itself, right? Sex is sacred because God is fuck. And God is fuck means, not that God fucks around, although God happens to be polyamorous, if you've noticed, right? That's just kind of interesting, right? How do you know, by the way? Well, really simple. In the old world, God was monogamous, meaning God was the God of my people. God's the God of the Jews. We're the chosen people. No, God's the God of the Tibetan Buddhists. We're the chosen people. No. God's only the God of the fundamentalist Christians who accept Christ in a particular way. No. God is the God of the particular Islamic caliphate. That's Dar el-Harb against Dar el-Islam. It's my God. That's the monogamous God. You get it? It's my God. My people. No, actually, God's polyamorous. Right? God's getting it on all over the world. Right? That's what God does. That's what Goddess does. Right? God, Goddess is actually in radical love, not only with every group of people, but actually God is in radical fuck, right? In radical love and radical eros with every human being, right? And the fact that God's getting it on with Christina, right, doesn't mean that God's not having a little thing happen on the side with Tara. And as a matter of fact, with both Taras, I'm telling you, God's what's happening here. And with every guy in the room for sure, right? But we're trying to keep that quiet, right? So God's polyamorous, of course. It's kind of obvious, right? Of course God's polyamorous, right? God's radically in love and radically attracted to, reality is radically attracted to, right, every human being. And we could talk about that for a couple of hours to really unpack it. It's a big dharma by itself. But just to get it for a second, right, God is fuck, meaning in every moment of reality, right, reality is, right, driven by an eros which thrusts forward and creates newness. And Whitehead called that the creative advance of novelty. That the nature of reality, the fundamental, Whitehead was the greatest process philosopher, right, ever. And he says the basic constituent nature of reality is the creative advance, thrusting forward, of novelty, creating newness. Right? So reality births a new moment. This moment we're having together right now never existed before. It's the unique self, a unique quality, a unique texture, a unique quality of intimacy in this moment of time that never was, is, or will be ever again. So reality, right, creates novelty. It thrusts forward, and reality receives all that was before. Everything that's before is held. Nothing's lost. Nothing's forgotten in the cosmos. Right? Everything that was before remains as received as reality thrusts forward. Every moment of reality, right, that moment is either open or it's closed. That's the nature of reality. Every moment of reality, because, and I'll try and put it all together, okay? Because evolution's a story, means evolution's going somewhere. It has a narrative. It's called history. History is his story. Fuck, thrusting forward. Phallus, history, his story. It's moving someplace. Right? That's what history is. Right? Reality is a story, and yet it receives everything that all of the yesterdays. Right? The world doesn't disappear. Right? Every new advance in reality, every new evolutionary advance is remembered and held and received and taken into the next moment. So the nature of reality is, right, always moving forward. And every moment, right, has a new quality, right? In that moment, right, births a new reality that never existed before it. That's the evolutionary eros. That's the creative advance of novelty. That's the source of creativity. That's the source of newness. It's the source of transformation, right? It's why yesterday doesn't determine today. Whatever I was yesterday is what I was yesterday. But if reality was static, how could I possibly change? Which is why the great religions didn't really believe you could change, right? And early psychology didn't really believe you could change because reality is fundamentally static. But if reality is a story, if every moment is a new reality birthing a new possibility, and if God is actually the possibility of possibility, which is the evolutionary nature of reality, right, then actually the only slave driver in the world is the belief that, right, yesterday determines today. Now, you see, it's all about sex, and it's not about sex at all. You get it? Right? Sex is everything. Reality is fuck. Right? Sex is the nature of reality. Every moment of reality is fuck. Right? Not fucking around. Right? Not fuck in its degraded sense. Right? We exile fuck, right? Capital F, right? To fuck, lowercase f, because we actually don't know what to do with the word. Right? We don't know what to do with sex. We're confused about it. Right? And so we don't even know what the word fuck means. So we make, right, the essential nature of reality into a curse. Fuck you. What does that mean? Right? Or we make it into kind of an exclamation of wonder. Holy fuck. Right? Or we make it into a question. What the fuck? Right? Or we make it having something to do with my mother. What a motherfucker. What does that mean? Right? We're confused about what the word even means. Right? Oh fuck. Right? Fuck off. Right? How do you fuck off? What does that mean? Right? It's just, right? You get this confusing word? Right? We're confused about the word because we don't know what fuck means. Because we don't have a sexual narrative. Right? But actually, God is fuck. Reality is fuck. And in every moment, protons and electrons, right, to molecules, to atoms, all the way up, all the way down, reality is fuck. In culture, in the biosphere, right, in the noosphere, at the most essential scientific level, the most essential human interior level. So what is the new narrative of sexuality? It's not sex positive, sex negative, sex neutral, sex sacred, it creates a baby, right? No, reality is fuck. Reality is the evolutionary eros. Right? And do you realize that for the first time, right, we can actually move beyond sexual shame? Right? That narrative is an affront to shame. You get that? That's an affront to shame. Right? What shame? No, actually, that is the evolutionary eros moving, alive, awake in me. It's not like I'm out of control. Right? We're supposed to be in control. You're out of control, you're dangerous. She's dangerous, she's out of control. Right? But actually, the greatest pleasure we get is when we give up control, when we surrender. Right? When we surrender to the taste of a food. When we surrender, at a, back in the day, 25 years ago when Jerry Garcia was still alive, right? You could spin at a Dead concert, you surrender, right? We surrender at an ultimate moment of sexing, right? We surrender, right, to the beauty of a sunset, right? We actually become alive at moments when we give up control, right? Because one of the natures of, right, the evolutionary eros is that it completely surrenders. Right, the moment just, I surrender. Eros has two qualities. The evolutionary eros has two natures to it. And the first quality of the evolutionary eros, the first quality of fuck, is surrender. It gives up, right? I submit, right? Utter, radical submission, right? Take me now. And take me now means, right, I'm open to everything that's possible right now. I'm no longer armored, Reich's armor. I'm not closed. I open myself fully, right, to the infinite possibility, the radical potentiating, because potency, sexual potency means it's potentiated. The potential, that is to say the newness, the emergent that can be birthed right now, right, is fully available to me. When I'm closed, when I'm armored, when I'm not surrendered, then I can't receive the potentiated possibility that emerges from the potency of this moment, giving the promise that it's giving, right, and the poignancy it's giving, right? So that potentiating, right, that potential that doesn't yet exist. What's potential? It doesn't yet exist. It's about to come into being. So potency, fuck, is about potential, which is the potentiating of that which wasn't, which now is, which becomes available through the experience of radical surrender, right? Now, you can't do radical surrender when you're living in the sentences of yesterday. Or when your sentences of yesterday, which are your birth sentences, I'm not enough, I'm not safe, I'm not good, right? I can't, right? That's yesterday's script. As long as I'm in yesterday's script, right, I can't actually open to the newness of the moment. And we actually know, I was actually talking on the phone recently with A lovely gentleman who developed EST, a guy named Werner Erhard, right, who kind of developed that kind of whole system. And one of the things that he was talking about is kind of the new brain science, right? And the new brain science we know in the last 15, 20 years, your brain never does anything new. Never. Other than very, very, very rarely, at moments of radical wonder and amazement, there's a synapse, an opening, and there's a possibility of newness. But 99.99999999999%, you see somebody talking in front of you. Let's say you see it, but I'm talking in front of you now. What do? You go back to all your early images of men talking in front of you, right? And you say, okay, I like that man. I didn't like my father. I like that person. He's annoying. He reminds me of this, right? You can't react to the newness of this person right now because all of the figures that have talked to me in my life and I replay a figure's now talking to me, and all the figures who ever talked to me in my life are now at play right now, and I now interpret my reaction to that person based on all the figures, unless we could say, fuck that. Another use of fuck. Fuck that. And actually open up to this meeting right now in this moment, right here. That never existed before. That has new possibility, that's pregnant with new potential, or that can birth a new reality, what we call in evolution an emergent. An emergent means that which, right, is not based, it's more than the sum total of the previous parts. You get that? An emergent means it's a new whole that's more than the sum total of the previous parts. It's an emergent. It never was before. That is called fuck. Fuck births an emergent. When and how? When I surrender, I give up the old patterning. I give up the old story, right? I give up the old sentences. I give up the old script. I give up the old neural wiring, and I radically surrender everything possible, all that I have into this moment. I'm fully here. Surrender, right? There is nothing more beautiful, more gorgeous, more stunning, more potentiating, more potent, more sexy, more fuck, right, than surrender. Now, stay with me for a second. Does that mean you should go around surrendering to everyone? Of course not. Right? Of course not. Right? That'd be dumb. Right? Of course that's not what it means. It means you create a context of radical trust, radical intimacy, radical safety, so that you can be ultimately dangerous. Right? Chung Sa says, I come to speak dangerous words. I ask only that you listen dangerously. So stay with me for a second. The sexual models the erotic. The sexual is the place, the relationship between sex and eros is very precise. Sex is an eros. Eros is the full possibility of reality. It's the full aliveness of reality. It's when I'm on the inside of the inside. It's when I'm participating in the yearning force of being. When I experience the wholeness of reality, right? I experience, right, the fullness of presence, right? My imagination runs wild. Giving and receiving are one. That's the erotic experience. The erotic experience is not limited to the sexual. Tantra means, to expand the experience of eros beyond the sexual into every dimension of living. Right? So the sexual models the erotic. So in the sexual, when I submit, when I surrender, when I give up my contraction, but not just my contraction, I give up my smallness, I give up my egoic drives, right? I do things that I would never do. Someone says, walk up to the wall. Now, fuck the wall. I don't think I'd do that when a person told me that'd be a really weird thing to do. Really? I don't think so. Of course you wouldn't do it. Should you do it? No, and if people are telling you that regularly, I'd get out of that society. That's a little weird. That's a little fucked up. But if you're in a radically safe container and you actually create a ritualized space, right, of radical surrender, where you actually get to give up the egoic grasping structure and you get to be fully open, right, to the surging of evolutionary eros, right, available to you in this moment. And someone says, get up. And there's a sharpness to it. Fuck the wall. You go fuck the wall because you're completely surrendered, right? Actually, something opens up in that moment that was never possible before because you've created a ritualized space where you can access the power of surrender. It's powerful, right? Now, surrender, right? The sexual models the erotic. The sexual invites radical surrender. It's the quality of surrender. It's the quality of submission. And tomorrow, I want to talk a lot more about it. Okay? I just want to go one more step with you, just like 3 more minutes, and we'll try and kind of wrap the second side. Okay, so we get surrender. Everyone gets like a little bit. We just took a taste. We've barely touched it, but you get a taste of what surrender is. Everyone has a taste? Anyone? Who doesn't have a taste? Okay, you have a taste. But what about that obnoxious guy who sang with that sharp voice, "Get up, walk to the wall"? Who is that? What's that kind of perverse, messed up, right, pathologized, right, confused? What's that? Well, stay with me. In every game of surrender, of submission, there's also domination. So what's domination? So the play of domination is the access of power. And power, right, is a category that we have in the liberal culture interrogated negatively. Now stay with me. Are there abuses of power? Of course there are abuses of power. Obviously. Are there abuses of powerlessness? Of course there are. There are people using power the wrong way, and there are people who are being powerless and pretending to be victims who are not, who are using it the wrong way. Of course that's true. Of course there's abuses of power. Everything can be abused. There's nothing in the world that's holy and sacred that can't be abused. But the fact that there's power abuse doesn't make power bad. You get that? Power is the surging force of evolution. Right? Power is, right, all of the molecular structures, right? Power is, right, all of the energy contained, right, in every nanosecond and nanobot of reality, right? All of reality is, right, the cosmos is power, right? That's what it is. Exploding stars, supernovas, power, right? The evolutionary eros thrusting forward, creating new possibility, power, right? Gravity is power, right? Propulsion, power. Right? Power is the nature of reality, which is why, right, every great spiritual tradition talked about, right, divinity as the infinity of power. We've lost access to our power. Right? We've interrogated power negatively. We've attributed power or identified power with its abusive form. But actually, this is for the guys in the room for a second, okay? It's the guy thing. Okay, women, don't get mad at me. It's the guy thing for a second. Right? When you see a superhero movie or you see Rocky, you know, back in the day, there's been 5 Rockies, the new movie's Creed, right? You know, but you see Rocky. When you walk out of Rocky, you basically want to be Rocky. You walk out kind of boxing, right? Superhero, Superman, you see Superman. You kind of say to yourself, I can do that. It's a good job. Right, Mike? Superman's a good job. That's good. That's good. I like that outfit. I'm kind of looking good in that, right? Right? And we identify with the superhero. We kind of walk out and say, my job's kind of boring. Right? And we're attracted to power, not because we're pathological, not because we're fucked up, because power is attractive. And power is not attractive because it's wrong or sinful or abusive. Power is attractive because it's powerful. Right? Right? And potency, right, is about surrendering to the potential, right, of tomorrow. And potency is about the potent thrust right into tomorrow. Right? It's about the power of the knight, the power of the warrior, right? The power of, right, the masculine and the feminine. The feminine is massively power, the masculine is massively power, and the axis of power is delightful. There's an utter radical delight to power. I have a friend of mine, a great guy, who's a key executive at a massive, actually holy pharmaceutical company. We've made all pharmaceutical companies bad. This is a holy company that's actually creating cures for cancer. It's just doing fantastic things. He has 3,000 people who work for him. Right? Christina knows him well. He's on our board. Right? And he enjoys having 3,000 people work for him. That's an enjoyable experience. He's not abusing them. Right? It's not power because he's now objectified them or reduced them. He enjoys, right, the actual erotic flow of power. It's enjoyable. Right? Right? So power is beautiful. Power is the actual nature of cosmos. Right? Cosmos is power exponentialized. And then what we've done is we've created this weird, fucked up kind of bad idea that power is abusive. No, the negative expression of power is abusive. You get that? Okay, power is not abusive. Power is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's stunning. But we got to find an arena in which to express and access power, which is radically safe, radically honoring of individual integrity, individual autonomy, right? And at the same time allows us to access power. That is the play of domination and submission in sexuality. Right? Sexuality models the sacred. It models the holy. So in sexuality, I begin to play with holy surrender and holy power. And when I play with holy surrender and holy power, I become imitatio universalis, right? I imitate reality. I don't just imitate reality. I let reality express, live, be in me because I open up to that moment. And actually my relationship, and let's go to the last step. My relationship to every moment is actually domination and submission. Domination and submission, right, is the nature of reality. In every moment, I have two choices. Either I fuck the moment open with full and radical power. I love the moment open. I fuck the moment open in order to allow it to give birth to the full possibility of that moment. You fucked it open, full power, and at the very same moment, I surrender to the moment. I utterly submit, total surrender. I surrender to the moment, and I let the moment fuck me open. I let the moment dominate me. I'm in full submission to whatever the moment wants to do, and the moment impregnates me. Remember that movie? I'm dating myself now. It was like 25 years ago. I remember seeing it. It was a movie called, what was it called? The Accidental Tourist. How many people remember that? Right? We're going to date. You're going to date. That's me and Christina. Anybody else in the room? You should go see it. Accidental Tourist, great movie. Right? And it's a novel, but I can't remember who wrote it. But it's basically about a guy, about this dude who's kind of traveling all over the world, but he's never really there. Right? He's kind of sanitized the room. He's kind of made sure that he kind of travels every place, but he's never present. Because he never lets the moment fuck him open. He never lets the new place love him open, right? He's kind of protected himself, right? He's armored in Reichian terms, right? So the moment can never birth anything new, and he never changes, right? He's static, right? Wow. You know, and the early mystical masters would never let anyone take their picture when cameras were created because they said that a camera freezes the moment, right? And if you freeze the moment's not holy. You get that? So reality is becoming. It's the ecstatic urgency of birthing something new. So in every moment, I'm dominating the moment. I'm fucking the moment open. I'm thrusting into the moment, and the moment waits to receive me. The Zohar, the holy mystical book of, right, the Hebraic tradition, talks about every moment waiting to receive the full thrust of the righteous one. It's beautiful, right? The righteous one is the man, the woman, who fully enters the moment, right? Who breaks, right, the tyranny of yesterday that says that yesterday determines today and is willing to actually transform and open up to the full possibility that I can today birth a new me that didn't ever exist before, right? I'm dominating the moment. I'm refusing the pattern of yesterday, right? I'm loving it open. I'm reimagining reality. I'm thrusting in with the full power of my phallus. And yet at the same moment, I'm in full surrender. I fully open. I open to reality. I receive reality in my wetness, and I let it impregnate me in order to birth something new. In every moment of reality, if I'm enlightened, enlightenment means to be aligned with the nature of reality, right? I'm actually in every moment thrusting forward, birthing something new, fucking the moment open, loving the moment open, and at the very same time, receiving the moment. The moment loves me open. It fucks me open. So I want to conclude with an apology. The apology is, it was a short time. We're going to do full questions tomorrow, right? We're going to do full questions with your permission tomorrow. I want to apologize if, normally we have time to chat, right, to hear about each other, right, to kind of exchange, which we didn't quite do today because I'm in Carmel, California, and you're in Manhattan. But we're absolutely going to do full weekends of Integral Evolutionary Tantra together in New York. You are privileged to be with Christina, right, with Tara holding space in the ways that the goddess Tara does. Right? And Christina has really created this framework and this space, and it's a holy space. It's a temple space. Anything that I said that, had an old brain pattern activated in you, right? Who's this guy talking to me? Right? Let it go. Right? If something I said was annoying, you're right, I'm wrong. Take it as a given. Okay? So just forgive me any imperfection, anything that, didn't fully land with you, and let go of the dross, right, the external, and see if you can find the inside of it. And I'm wildly privileged and honored, to talk to you in these few moments, right, to be in this place where, right, the intention is the evolution of love, the evolution of eros, right, the amount of pain and suffering in the world today that emerges directly from our inability to embody, right, who we are, to embody our sexuality, to embody our eros, to embody our true nature, right? To feel the quivering tenderness of the divine loving us open. The inability to actually access that is the source of all ethical breakdown. If you want to know the source of human rights, Human rights is all sex. Imagine a quivering open body, wet, erect, sensitive, available, and you see the source of all human rights. How could that body with infinite sensitivity not be entitled to full dignity, full boundary, full rights, full beauty? Sex is the source of everything. It's not about sex at all in any way, and it's all about sex. That's the tantric mystery, right? Tantra is a trickster, right? It's a trickster, it's a trick. It's all sex, it's not sex at all. No bypass. And so I want to offer you as a friend, as a spiritual friend, just a blessing. This day is important. This day is important, right? It's not just about the group of people in the room who are each huge stories and hugely worthy and awesome individually, but all of reality is listening to the whispers in this room. Now, you're the pioneers. You're the people at the edge. You're the people trying to open up. We're the people trying to open up new possibility. So I just bow, in humility and respect to your courage, right, to your openness, right, to your raw brilliance and beauty. So thank you. Thank you, Christina.